They never told you the truth about wealth. Not your teachers. Not your parents. Not the entrepreneurs selling you courses on Instagram. Because the real doctrine of fortune was written 5 centuries ago by a man who watched princes rise from nothing and merchants command kingdoms. Machiavelli did not write about virtue. He wrote about what works. And what he discovered about getting rich has been buried under motivational noise and fairy tales about hard work. This is not about hustling. This is about the architecture of wealth that operates in silence while others chase shadows. If you want to know what they have kept from you, subscribe now. Because this knowledge does not repeat itself. The algorithm may never show you this again. There is a room you have never entered. In that room sit the people who understand that wealth is not earned the way you were taught. It is not a reward for goodness. It is not a consequence of hours worked. Wealth is a form of power. And power has rules. Machiavelli spent his life in the court of Florence watching fortunes built and destroyed. He saw bankers who could not read control the destiny of scholars. He saw generals with no money starve while merchants with no courage feasted. And he wrote down what separated them. Not in the prince, where everyone looks, but in the margins, in the letters, in the observations he made about the Medici, about Cesare Borgia, about the merchants of Venice who turned paper into empires. What he taught them is what I am about to teach you. Lesson 1. Wealth follows fear, not love. You have been lied to about likability. They told you to be kind, to be generous, to build relationships, to give value. And while you were busy being loved, someone else became necessary. Machiavelli observed a truth that still governs every transaction in the modern world. People pay for what they fear losing, not for what they like, not for what is nice, for what they cannot afford to be without. The mechanic who fixes your brakes charges more than the one who washes your car. Not because he is kinder, because you fear the consequences of his absence. The lawyer who saves you from prison earns more than the one who writes your will. Not because she works harder, because she controls your fear. Machiavelli watched this in Renaissance Italy. The mercenaries who were loved were dismissed the moment peace arrived. The ones who were feared, the ones who held secrets, who controlled supply routes, who knew where the bodies were buried, they stayed rich. They stayed employed. They stayed powerful. If you want wealth, stop trying to be appreciated. Start becoming unavoidable. Become the person who holds the keys to what others desperately need. This is not about being cruel. This is about positioning. The world does not pay for your time. It pays for your inevitability. Ask yourself right now. In your work, in your business, in your skill, are you nice or are you necessary? Comment below what you think separates the two. And if this is already making you see wealth differently, subscribe. Because what comes next will rewire everything you thought about money. Lesson 2. Appear humble. Accumulate in secret. Machiavelli knew that the appearance of wealth invites envy. And envy invites destruction. The rich who flaunt are the first to be taxed. The first to be targeted. The first to be betrayed by those they trusted. He studied the Medici carefully. They did not dress like kings. They dressed like citizens. They funded churches. They spoke softly. But behind closed doors, they owned the Pope. They controlled trade routes. They decided who ruled and who fell. This was not deception for the sake of lies. This was survival engineering. Because the moment the crowd believes you have more than you deserve, they will find a way to take it. In the modern world, this principle is even more weaponized. Every dollar you display is a target. Every car, every watch, every vacation photo is a confession. The algorithm tracks your wealth. The tax system watches your signals. Your friends calculate their envy. And while you are performing success, the truly wealthy are buying assets in LLCs you have never heard of, under names you will never know. Machiavelli would tell you this. Let them think you are comfortable. Let them think you are doing well. But never let them see the vault. Never let them know how much you control. Because wealth that is seen is wealth that can be taken. Wealth that is invisible is wealth that compounds forever. The people who taught you to showcase success sold you a trap. They monetized your ego. They turned your insecurity into content. And while you were flexing, they were acquiring. Stop performing wealth. Start protecting it. Lesson 3. Take risk only when the outcome is engineered. Machiavelli despised gamblers. He respected calculators. In his view, fortune was not a wheel that spun randomly. It was a river, and the wise did not pray for the river to change. They built dams before the flood. They redirected the current before it became unstoppable. Every fortune he studied in Italy had a single common structure. The winner had controlled more variables than the loser. Cesare Borgia did not invade cities on courage alone. He bribed half the guards before the siege began. The Medici did not bet on trade ships. They insured the ships. They owned the ports. They controlled the information about which routes were safe. This is the part they do not teach you in business school. Risk is not noble. Risk is expensive. The entrepreneurs you admire, the investors you read about, they did not get rich by betting everything on a dream. They got rich by removing doubt before they moved. They raised capital before they built. They pre-sold before they produced. They tested the market with other people's money. And only when the outcome was nearly guaranteed did they go all in. You have been taught to romanticize the leap, the pivot, the hustle in the dark. But Machiavelli would call that poverty behavior. Desperation masked as courage. If you want to build wealth, stop leaping. Start stacking conditions. Control the variables. Rig the game before you sit at the table. The house always wins. Not because it is lucky, because it wrote the rules. Does this make you rethink every risk you have taken? Comment below the last time you jumped without building the net first. And if you are starting to see the game clearly, hit subscribe. You are going to need what comes next. Lesson 4. Use other people's resources. Keep the profit. Machiavelli watched princes conquer nations without spending their own gold. They used mercenaries. They borrowed from bankers. They formed alliances that dissolved the moment victory arrived. And the princes who tried to fund wars from their own treasuries? They went bankrupt. They lost their thrones. Not because they were not brave. Because they confused ownership with control. The lesson was clear. You do not need to own the army. You need to command it. You do not need to own the capital. You need to direct it. In the modern economy, this principle is the difference between the middle class and the wealthy. The middle class saves to buy. The wealthy leverage to control. They use the bank's money to buy real estate. They use investor capital to build companies. They use other people's audiences to sell products. And when the profit comes, it flows to the one who orchestrated the deal, not to the one who provided the resources. This is not unethical. This is structure. Machiavelli understood that resources are neutral. They flow toward whoever demonstrates the capacity to deploy them effectively. If you wait until you have enough saved, you will wait forever. Because inflation will eat your savings faster than discipline can build them. The move is this. Become valuable at deploying resources. Show the market you can turn capital into more capital. Then attract it. Borrow it. Joint venture it. But never wait for permission from your own bank account. The Medici did not get rich by saving coins. They got rich by moving everyone else's coins and taking a cut every time the money changed hands. Lesson 5. Let others take the blame, you take the wealth. There is a reason Machiavelli wrote about Cesare Borgia with fascination. Borgia understood scapegoating as a political technology. When he conquered Romagna, the region was chaotic. So he installed a brutal governor named Ramiro de Orco. Ramiro pacified the region with violence. And once order was restored, Borgia had him executed in the public square. The people cheered. They loved Borgia for removing the tyrant. They forgot that Borgia had given the orders all along. He got the result. Someone else took the blame. This was not cruelty. This was theatrical precision. The modern version of this is everywhere. The CEO fires the VP when the product fails. The investor blames the founder when the startup collapses. The brand blames the supplier when quality drops. And the one who orchestrated the strategy walks away clean, ready to do it again with a new face in the spotlight. You need to understand this if you want to get rich. Visibility is not always power. Sometimes visibility is liability. Let someone else be the face. Let someone else take the heat when the market turns. You stay in the shadows. You control the equity. You own the structure. Machiavelli would tell you that martyrs are remembered but rarely wealthy. The ones who survive to build again are the ones who knew when to step back and let the narrative blame someone else. This does not mean you betray loyalty. It means you architect responsibility in a way that protects your position. The wealthy do not go down with the ship. They own the insurance policy. If you have ever taken the fall for someone else's decision, you know this pain. Comment below if you have seen this happen. And subscribe if you are done being the scapegoat and ready to learn the structure. Lesson 6. Master the appearance of virtue. Practice the logic of gain. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and upright. But he must be ready to act the opposite when necessary. This was not a call to be evil. It was a recognition that the world rewards appearance, not essence. The prince who is truly generous will eventually run out of money and be despised for raising taxes. The prince who is selectively generous, but appears always giving, will be loved and remain solvent. The difference is not morality. It is strategy. This applies directly to wealth. The market does not care about your internal goodness. It cares about what you signal. If you appear trustworthy, people invest. If you appear competent, people hire you. If you appear successful, opportunities flow toward you. But if you actually spend all your money being generous, you will be broke and invisible. Machiavelli would say give publicly, but only what you can afford to lose. Build your reputation as someone honorable. Then in private, optimize every contract. Negotiate every point. Protect every margin. The reputation buys you access. The ruthlessness in execution builds the wealth. This is the duality that no one teaches. You are allowed to be kind in public and precise in private. You are allowed to donate to charity and also structure that donation for tax advantage. You are allowed to help people and still charge what you are worth. The mistake is believing that goodness requires financial self-sacrifice. Machiavelli watched the good princes lose their kingdoms. And he watched the strategic ones build dynasties. The lesson is not to abandon virtue. The lesson is to stop letting virtue make you poor. Lesson 7. Build leverage before you need it. Machiavelli observed that kingdoms fall not during war, but during peace. Because during peace, the prince grows comfortable. He dismisses his advisors. He reduces his army. He stops watching his rivals. And when the threat finally comes, he has no leverage left. No allies. No defenses. No options. The time to build the fortress is not when you see the enemy at the gate. It is when the sky is clear and no one believes you need it. This is the doctrine of prepared power. And it applies to wealth more than anything else. You do not build leverage when you are desperate. You build it when you are stable. You raise capital when you do not need it. You build your network before you need a favor. You create multiple income streams before one of them collapses. Because the moment you need leverage, the market knows. And it charges you accordingly. The interest rate is higher. The terms are worse. The person you ask for help remembers that you only call when you are in trouble. Machiavelli would tell you that desperation is the most expensive position you can negotiate from. The wealthy operate from abundance. Not because they have more, but because they prepared when they had less. They saved when others spent. They invested when others celebrated. They built relationships when others networked only for immediate gain. And when the recession came, when the industry shifted, when the opportunity appeared, they had the leverage to move while everyone else was paralyzed. If you are waiting until you need money to think about money, you have already lost. The game is won in the years before the crisis. In the habits no one sees. In the optionality you create when you do not yet need it. Are you building leverage right now, or are you coasting? Comment what leverage means to you in your situation. And if you are seeing the pattern here, subscribe. Because we are entering the part where this gets deep. Lesson 8. Never let them know what you really want. Machiavelli understood that desire is information. And information is power. The moment your rival knows what you want, they can deprive you of it. They can outbid you. They can block you. They can use it as ransom. This is why he advised rulers to mask their true ambitions. To appear satisfied. To let others believe they had no hunger. And then in silence, in the background, to move toward the objective without announcing it. This is not dishonesty. This is operational security. In business, in negotiation, in wealth building, the same rule applies. If you are desperate to close a deal, the other side will lower the offer. If you are hungry for a job, the employer will reduce the salary. If you need the sale, the client will demand discounts. Your need is their leverage. So you hide it. You create the appearance of options. You let them believe you are choosing them, not that you need them. And the price changes immediately. This is why the wealthy always have another deal in motion. Not because they are greedy. Because optionality is camouflage. It hides desperation. It creates the illusion of abundance. And illusion, in negotiation, is as valuable as reality. Machiavelli would tell you to want in private, to strategize in silence, and to move only when the other side believes you are indifferent. Because the one who cares less controls the frame. And the frame controls the outcome. Lesson 9. Wealth is not the goal. Power is. Wealth is just the fuel. This is the lesson that separates Machiavelli from every self-help guru you have ever heard. He did not care about money for comfort. He cared about money for optionality. For influence. For the ability to act when others could only watch. Wealth, in his framework, was stored decision-making power. The more you had, the more moves you could make. The more people you could employ. The more risks you could survive. The more enemies you could outlast. It was not about yachts. It was about inevitability. The modern obsession with wealth as status is a trap. Because status is performative. It drains the wealth to maintain the image. But power is silent. Power does not need to be seen. It just needs to be available when the moment comes. Machiavelli would tell you to stop spending money to look rich. And start accumulating money to become untouchable. To reach the point where you can say no without consequence. Where you can wait out bad deals. Where you can walk away from toxic clients. Where you can invest in long-term bets that others cannot afford to consider. This is the wealth that changes your life. Not the car. Not the watch. The ability to move without asking permission. To build without needing a loan. To pivot without panic. That is Machiavellian wealth. And everything else is just decoration. If this is shifting how you see money, let me know in the comments. Tell me what power means to you. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. Because what I am about to tell you next connects everything. Here is what they do not tell you about Machiavelli. He was not rich. He died in moderate poverty. He worked for the Florentine Republic for years without proper pay. He was exiled, tortured, forgotten by the very princes he advised. So why does his name echo 5 centuries later? Because he understood the structure. He saw the game. He wrote the code. And even though he did not win, he made it possible for others to win using his map. That is the paradox. The man who understood power better than almost anyone rarely held it himself. But his ideas became the foundation of every political move, every corporate strategy, every negotiation framework that followed. You are inheriting that map right now. But inheritance means nothing without application. You can know every rule in this video and still die broke. Because knowledge without execution is just entertainment. Machiavelli did not write so you could feel smart. He wrote so you could act different. So here is what happens next. You take one lesson from this video, just one, and you apply it this week. Maybe you stop announcing your plans. Maybe you start building leverage in private. Maybe you realize the person you have been trying to impress does not control your wealth. They are just draining your energy. Maybe you stop performing success and start protecting your money. One move. That is all. Because the people who get rich from philosophy are not the ones who consume the most. They are the ones who convert insight into behavior. Machiavelli would respect that. He would not care if you could quote him. He would care if you used him. Now let us go deeper. Because there is a shadow lesson underneath all of this. Something Machiavelli never said directly, but demonstrated in every line he ever wrote. Wealth does not come from fairness. Comes from asymmetry. From knowing something others do not. From being positioned where others are not. From moving when others hesitate. The entire structure of getting rich is built on information advantage and timing advantage. The person who knows the neighborhood is being developed before anyone else buys the land cheap. The person who learns the skill before it becomes mainstream charges premium when everyone else realizes they need it. The person who understands the tax code shelters wealth while others pay full freight. This is not about cheating. This is about paying attention. Machiavelli was obsessed with observation. He watched. He recorded. He pattern matched. And he realized that history does not repeat, but it rhymes. The strategies that put the Medici in power are the same strategies that build billionaires today. Different tools. Same logic. And if you are not studying the logic, you are just hoping. Hope is not a strategy. Pattern recognition is. So what patterns are you seeing in your industry right now? What is being ignored that will be expensive in 2 years? What is being overhyped that will collapse in 6 months? The people getting rich are the ones answering these questions in private and positioning accordingly. Everyone else is reading headlines and reacting. Machiavelli would tell you that reaction is the behavior of the governed. Anticipation is the behavior of the governor. Comment below one pattern you are seeing that no one is talking about yet. And subscribe if you want more of this level of analysis. Because we are not even halfway through what I need to show you. Let us talk about something uncomfortable. Machiavelli believed that most people are predictable. That they operate from fear, from greed, from ego. And that if you understand these drives, you can predict their decisions. This was not cynicism. This was pattern observation. He noticed that people in debt make desperate choices. That people seeking status make expensive choices. That people afraid of missing out make impulsive choices. And the people who got rich were the ones positioning themselves on the other side of those choices. Selling to the desperate. Providing status to the insecure. Offering opportunity to the impulsive. This is still happening. Every market, every niche, every industry has emotional currents running under the surface. And the people extracting wealth are the ones mapping those currents. The credit card company knows you will overspend when you feel poor. The luxury brand knows you will overpay when you feel insecure. The guru knows you will buy the course when you feel behind. They are not smarter than you. They just understand your emotional trigger points better than you do. And Machiavelli would say that is fair. Because you could do the same. You could study your market. Understand what they fear. What they desire. What they will pay to avoid or obtain. And you could build your wealth by becoming the solution to their emotional economics. This is not manipulation if you deliver real value. This is alignment. You are simply making it easy for people to pay you for solving the problem they already have. But most people never study the problem. They just build what they think is cool and then wonder why no one buys. Machiavelli would call that arrogance. The market does not care what you think is valuable. It cares what it fears losing or desperately wants to gain. Are you building what you want to build, or what the market is already trying to buy? Comment your answer below. And if this is making you rethink your entire approach, make sure you are subscribed. Because the next part is about timing. Timing is everything. Machiavelli watched fortunes made and destroyed purely based on when someone moved. The merchant who bought grain before the famine became wealthy. The one who bought after became average. The soldier who switched sides before the battle was rewarded. The one who switched after was executed. Timing was not luck. It was information plus boldness. Knowing what was coming and acting before the crowd confirmed it. This is the single most underrated component of wealth. Everyone talks about what to do. Almost no one talks about when to do it. You can have the right business in the wrong year and go bankrupt. You can have the average business in the right year and become a millionaire. The difference is not effort. It is timing. And timing comes from paying attention to cycles. Economic cycles. Cultural cycles. Technological cycles. Machiavelli understood that power shifted in waves. That there were moments when the old guard was weak and the new guard could rise. And if you missed that window, you waited another generation. In the modern world, these windows open and close faster. An industry goes from emerging to saturated in 18 months. A platform goes from early adopter to overrun in 2 years. A skill goes from rare to commoditized in 3 years. If you are not watching these cycles, you are always late. You are always entering when the opportunity is overcrowded and the margins are crushed. The people getting rich are the ones entering early, not first. Early. There is a difference. First is risky. Early is informed. Early means you see the wave forming and you position before it peaks. And then you exit before it crashes. This is not genius. This is attention. Machiavelli would tell you to stop looking at what is popular now and start looking at what is quietly growing. What is being dismissed by the mainstream but adopted by the sharper players. That is where the next fortunes are being built. What trend are you watching right now that most people are ignoring? Comment it below. Let us see who is paying attention. And subscribe if you want to keep learning how to see what others miss. Now we need to address the moral tension in all of this. Because some of you are feeling it. This sounds ruthless. It sounds cold. It sounds like everything you were taught not to be. And that tension is important. Do not dismiss it. Machiavelli himself struggled with it. He was not a sociopath. He was a Republican. He believed in virtue. He admired courage and loyalty and honor. But he also believed that the world did not reward those things consistently. That sometimes the honorable lost, and the dishonorable won. And he wanted to understand why. Not so he could be evil, so he could be effective. This is the frame you need. Machiavellian strategy is not about abandoning your values. It is about protecting them. If you are too naive, you will be devoured by people who are not. If you are too trusting, you will be betrayed by people who see trust as weakness. If you are too generous, you will be bled dry by people who see generosity as opportunity. Machiavelli would tell you that the moral person who refuses to learn strategy will lose to the immoral person who masters it. And when the immoral person wins, they shape the world. They write the rules. They decide what happens next. So if you actually care about goodness, you need to be good and strategic, not good and helpless. This is the version of Machiavellianism that no one teaches. It is not about becoming a villain. It is about refusing to be a victim. It is about making sure that your values survive contact with reality. And reality is full of people who do not share your values, who will smile while they take from you, who will use your kindness as leverage. Machiavelli saw this in Florence, in Rome, in every court he studied. And he wrote so that the well-meaning would have a chance, so they would stop losing by default. If you have ever been taken advantage of because you were too kind, comment below. You are not alone. And if you want to learn how to be kind and protected at the same time, subscribe. Because that balance is what the rest of this is about. Let us talk about alliances. Machiavelli believed that you should never fully trust an ally, but you should always appear trustworthy to them. Because alliances are conditional. They last as long as mutual benefit lasts. The moment the incentive changes, the alliance dissolves. This is not pessimism. This is observation. He watched kingdoms betray each other the moment one no longer needed the other. And the kingdoms that survived were the ones that prepared for betrayal even while smiling at the treaty signing. In business, in wealth building, this is critical. Your partner today may be your competitor tomorrow. Your employer today may be your client next year. Your investor today may be your rival in 5 years. This does not mean you treat them badly. It means you never become completely dependent. You always have a backup plan. You always keep your own leverage. You always maintain optionality. Because the moment you need them more than they need you, the terms change. The equity changes. The power changes. Machiavelli would tell you to build alliances strategically. Work with people who have what you lack. But never give them so much control that they can destroy you by leaving. Never put all your wealth in one partnership. Never make one client your entire revenue. Never let one person hold all your access. Diversify your dependencies. Because loyalty is a beautiful idea. But incentive is a more reliable structure. And the people who get rich understand the difference. Lesson 10. Act like you have already won. There is a psychological edge that Machiavelli noticed in every successful prince. They moved with certainty. Even when the outcome was unclear. Even when the odds were against them. They acted like victory was inevitable. And that confidence changed how others responded. Soldiers fought harder. Allies invested more. Enemies hesitated. Not because the prince had guaranteed success, but because he behaved as if he had. This is not delusion. This is frame control. And it applies directly to wealth. When you pitch an investor, if you act like you are begging, they will lowball you or pass. If you act like you are choosing between multiple investors and they are lucky to be considered, they will move faster and offer better terms. When you negotiate a salary, if you act desperate, they will minimize the offer. If you act like you have other options and this is just one path, they will stretch to keep you. The energy you bring into a room sets the price. Machiavelli understood this. The prince who entered the negotiation looking weak left with a weak deal. The prince who entered looking inevitable left with everything he wanted. You do not have to lie. You just have to embody the outcome before it happens. Walk into the meeting like you have already closed 3 others. Build your product like it is already selling. Negotiate like you have leverage even if you are still building it. Because people mirror your certainty. If you believe you are valuable, they will start to believe it too. And belief changes behavior. Behavior changes offers. Offers change your wealth. This is one of the most practical pieces of Machiavellian psychology. Fake it until you make it is not complete. The real line is act like the person who has already arrived, and the arrival becomes easier. Does this make sense to you? Have you ever seen confidence change the outcome even when nothing else changed? Comment below and let me know. And if you are not subscribed, do it now. We are in the final stretch and it gets even sharper. Here is the thing about Machiavelli that makes him timeless. He did not write theory. He wrote observation. Every principle he described came from watching real people win or lose real power. He did not guess. He recorded. And because human nature has not changed, his recordings still work. The tools are different. The principles are identical. In his time, wealth came from land and trade routes. Today it comes from equity and information. But the psychology of how it moves is the same. People still fear loss more than they desire gain. People still pay for status. People still trust appearance over investigation. People still follow confidence. People still abandon the weak and align with the strong. If you understand these patterns, you can design wealth. You do not need to be the smartest. You do not need to be the most creative. You need to understand the matrix of human behavior and position yourself where the incentives flow. Machiavelli would tell you that the market is not random. It is a system of predictable emotional reactions. And systems can be learned. Systems can be leveraged. The reason most people do not get rich is not because they are not smart enough. It is because they are playing a game they have not studied. They are reacting instead of anticipating. They are hoping instead of positioning. You are different now, because now you see the structure. You see that wealth is not about working harder. It is about working from better positioning. It is about controlling variables. It is about mastering appearance. It is about timing. It is about leverage. It is about understanding what people will pay for before they know they need it. This is the game. And now you know the rules. But knowing is not enough. Let me say that again because this is where most people fail. Knowing is not enough. You can watch this entire video. You can understand every single lesson. And you can still be in the exact same financial position a year from now. Because understanding does not change your life. Decision does. Action does. Repetition does. Machiavelli did not write so you could admire the idea. He wrote so you could use the idea. So the question is not whether this makes sense. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you stop telling everyone your plan and start building in silence? Will you stop trying to be liked and start becoming necessary? Will you stop performing wealth and start protecting it? Will you stop waiting until you have enough and start leveraging what is already available? These are not rhetorical questions. These are the decisions that separate the person who watches philosophy videos from the person who becomes the case study inside them. Comment below one thing you are going to do differently after watching this. Just one. Because that one thing, if you actually do it, will compound. And a year from now, you will look back at this moment as the turning point. Not because the video was magic, but because you decided to move differently. And subscribe if you want to continue getting this level of clarity. Because this is not entertainment. This is reconstruction. We are rebuilding the way you see power, wealth, and positioning. And if you are serious about changing your situation, you need this voice in your feed consistently. Let me leave you with this. Machiavelli wrote The Prince in Exile. He had lost everything. His position, his reputation, his security. He was broke and desperate for relevance. And in that desperation, he wrote the most influential political manuscript in Western history. Not because he was trying to be famous, because he was trying to be useful. He wanted the Medici to hire him again. They never did. But 500 years later, his name is known by millions. His ideas shape movements. His strategies are taught in boardrooms and war rooms and startup accelerators. He lost in his lifetime, but his framework won forever. That is the final lesson. Your current position is not your permanent position. You can be losing right now and still build the structure that wins long-term. You can be overlooked today and be inevitable tomorrow. But only if you stop thinking like someone who is owed something, and start thinking like someone who is building optionality in silence. Machiavelli did not complain about fairness. He documented the patterns and wrote the manual. You are holding that manual now. What you do with it is up to you. If this video changed the way you see wealth, let me know in the comments. Tell me what hit hardest. Tell me what you are going to apply. And if you have not subscribed, this is the moment. Because everything I create is built for the people who are done with surface-level advice and ready for the architecture. The ones who want to know how things actually work. Not how they are supposed to work. How they do work. Machiavelli would have respected that. He would have respected you for watching this far. Not because you agree with everything, but because you were willing to look at the game without flinching. That is rare. Most people want to be comfortable. You want to be effective. And that difference is everything. So here is what happens next. You leave this video. You go back into your life. And you have a choice. You can go back to operating the way you always have. Hoping things will change. Waiting for fairness. Trusting that hard work alone will be enough. Or you can take what you learned here and start moving differently. Quietly. Strategically. With the kind of precision that does not announce itself but becomes undeniable over time. The world will not reward you for being good. But it will reward you for being necessary. It will not pay you for trying. But it will pay you for solving what it fears or desires. It will not care about your effort. But it will care about your positioning. This is not cruel. This is clarity. And clarity is the first form of wealth. Because once you see clearly, you stop wasting time on what does not matter. You stop spending energy on people who do not value it. You stop chasing validation and start building leverage. Machiavelli saw clearly. In a time of chaos and betrayal and political collapse, He saw the patterns. And he wrote them down. Not for the princes. For you. For anyone willing to read without ego. For anyone willing to learn without needing the lesson to be kind. You are that person. Or you would not still be here. So let me ask you one last time. What are you going to do with this? Not tomorrow. Not someday. This week. What is the one Machiavellian move you are going to make? The one shift in how you position yourself, how you negotiate, how you build. Comment it below. Make it real by saying it out loud. And then go do it. And subscribe. Because this is only the beginning. There is so much more to uncover. So many more layers of strategy, psychology, and power that most people will never hear. But you will. Because you are not most people. You are the one still watching. Still thinking. Still willing to learn what they will not teach you anywhere else. Machiavelli would have written for you. And I will keep creating for you. But you have to stay close. You have to subscribe. You have to be part of this. Because the algorithm does not care about quality. It cares about signals. And if you do not subscribe, it will assume you are not interested. It will stop showing you this work. And you will drift back into the noise. Do not let that happen. Hit the button. Join now, let us keep building. This is not motivation. This is the map. And the people who follow it do not stay where they are. They move in silence. They accumulate in private. They build leverage before they need it. And one day, without announcement, they become inevitable. That is Machiavellian wealth. That is what we are building here. Stay sharp. And I will see you in the next one.